I'm not drunk, I swear. Just a couple of shots of rum to steady my nerves, to keep my voice from shaking so I can get through this story. Without that bit of liquid courage, I don't think I could face the worst parts. The moments that still make my skin crawl and my heart pound like it's trying to escape my chest. You probably think I'm out of my mind, spinning some wild tale, and I don't blame you. I thought the old farmer was crazy when he first told me his story, his eyes wide with fear, his hands trembling as he whispered about things that couldn't possibly be real. I should have listened, should have taken him seriously, but I didn't. Now he's gone, and I'm still here, though I'm certain my days are numbered. By the time I finish telling you this, you'll understand why the sound of rain sends ice down my spine, why the sight of dark clouds makes me want to run and hide. It's not just water falling from the sky, it's a signal, a warning that it's out there, getting closer. And it won't stop until it finds me. My name's Lucas Bennett, and I was a volunteer with a small nonprofit in a dusty town called Puerto Viejo, nestled in the hills of northern Nicaragua. I'd been there for a year, working in a clinic alongside local doctors, managing patient records, scheduling appointments, and stepping in where the medical staff fell short. The doctors were good at treating cuts, fevers, and broken bones, but when it came to mental health, they were clueless. Anxiety, trauma, depression, they'd wave those off as superstition or weakness, passing the patients to me, the gringo with a psychology degree and a knack for listening. I didn't mind. I'd built a reputation in Puerto Viejo for handling the head cases, the people the doctors didn't have time for. It was rewarding work, helping folks navigate their fears in a place where mental health was barely a concept. For a year, everything went smoothly, just long days under the hum of ceiling fans, the chatter of patients, and the occasional bark of a stray dog outside. That changed in early May, when the rainy season was creeping closer. The air grew heavy, the sky bruised with clouds, and the town buzzed with anticipation as farmers prepared their fields. That's when I met Tomas, an old farmer from a village called El Sendero, a few miles out in the hills. The locals called people like him campesinos, a term that carried a hint of disdain, like calling someone a hillbilly. Tomas's daughter, Elena, dragged him into the clinic, her face set with determination as he shuffled behind, reluctant and ashamed. He was a wiry man, his face weathered like old leather, his straw hat crumpled in his hands. The doctors spent less than 5 minutes with him, muttering about nerves, before sending him to me. I asked Elena to wait outside, hoping to get Tomas to open up in private. He didn't want to talk. He sat across from me, staring at the cracked linoleum floor, his boots caked with mud. I tried to ease him into it, asking about his health, his family, anything to break the silence. All I got was that he was worried, his voice barely above a whisper, before he shut down and left. I figured he was embarrassed. Seeking help, especially for something in his head, was taboo in places like El Sendero. I let it go, assuming he wouldn't be back. People like him rarely returned to the clinic. A week later, Elena showed up alone, her eyes red from crying. My Spanish wasn't flawless, but I understood enough. Tomas hadn't been sleeping, hadn't been working his fields, which was a serious problem. Farmers like him lived for their crops, especially with the rainy season just days away. Elena said her father was seeing things in his dreams, things that left him shaking, refusing to go up to his mountain shack where he stayed during planting season to protect his corn and beans from animals and thieves. She begged me to visit, to talk to him. I wasn't sure I could help, but I felt responsible. I dismissed him too quickly, and now he was falling apart. So I agreed, catching a rickety bus with Elena, an old school bus painted green and packed with passengers who stared at me like I was from another planet. The ride was an hour of jolting over dirt roads, the hills rising around us, the air growing cooler as we climbed. We reached El Sendero just before noon, the sky heavy with the promise of rain. Elena led me up a winding path to Tomas's shack, a small structure of wood and corrugated tin perched on a slope overlooking his fields. He was outside, sitting on a log, his machete across his lap, looking worse than before. His eyes were bloodshot, his skin sallow, his hands trembling. He was startled to see me, maybe a little defensive, but Elena smoothed things over, explaining that I was there to help. After some awkward small talk, she left us us alone, and I sat with Tomas, trying to get him to open up. He was quiet for a long time, staring at the mountains, the machete glinting in his hands. Finally, he spoke, his voice low, like he was afraid the trees might hear. 10 days ago, he said, the first rain came, a sudden downpour that hammered the hills for hours. I remembered it, the way it pounded my apartment's tin roof, turning the streets to mud. Tomas had been up at his shack, preparing for the season, when the rain hit. He decided to wait it out, sitting under the overhang, watching the sun sink behind the peaks. That's when he felt it, a presence, like something was watching him from the forest. He called out, thinking it was another farmer caught in the storm, but no one answered. He brushed it off as his imagination, maybe the wind playing tricks. But then the dream started. The night after the rain, he dreamt he was in the forest, moving through the trees as rain fell, cooling the air. The woods were dark, but he wasn't afraid, not at first. He described the dream vividly, his voice trembling. Unlike his usual dreams, where he saw himself from a distance, this one was different. He was looking through someone else's eyes, moving with a heavy, lumbering gait that felt wrong, unnatural. The dreams kept coming, every night it rained, growing more vivid, more disturbing. He was stalking something, hunting it through the trees, his movements slow but deliberate, like a predator. A few nights ago, the dream changed. He came across a wild boar, rooting in the mud. He watched, through those alien eyes, as a massive, hairy fist smashed down, crushing the boar's skull in one blow. The animal twitched, its head reduced to pulp, blood mixing with the rain. Tomas woke up screaming, drenched in sweat, convinced it wasn't him in the dream. It was something else, something hunting in the forest, something that saw him as prey. He hadn't slept since. He was terrified of what he'd see next, of what the dreams meant. Elena, superstitious like most in Alcindaro, thought it was a curse or witchcraft and dragged him to the brink. I listened, trying to keep an open mind, but I didn't believe him. Not really. I told him they were just dreams, stress from the season, maybe too much a guardian after a long day. I gave him the clinic's number, told him to call if it got worse, but I could see the disappointment in his eyes. He wanted me to believe him, to take him seriously, but I couldn't. Dreams weren't reality. I left El Sendero that day, telling my coworkers about Tomas's story over drinks at the cantina. We laughed it off, called it a campesino ghost story, something brought on by too much liquor or old folklore. I figured he'd get over it, that the dreams would fade once the rain settled in. A few days later, a nurse handed me a note. Tomas had called, left a message. I went to the back room and played it, my hands growing cold as his voice crackled through the receiver. The message was frantic, his words slurred and broken. I dreamt again, he said. God help me, I saw through its eyes. It's out there in the woods. That's on my check. It's so close. It's hunting me. Please, you have to help. I played it again, then a third time, my stomach sinking. The call was 3 days old. I asked the nurse if he'd called again, but she shook her head, her face pale after hearing the message. I broke clinic protocol and used my cell to call the number he'd left. No answer. I tried twice more, same result. He needed help, medical, psychiatric, something. I felt guilty, like I'd failed him by dismissing his fears. I rummaged through the clinic's pharmacy, but we didn't have anything strong enough to calm someone in his state. So I went to a contact in town, a guy who could get things the clinic couldn't. I bought a few sedatives, nothing heavy, and decided to go back to El Sendero. I'd find Tomas, calm him down, convince him to come to the city for help. I was a fool. I caught the bus to El Sendero the next morning, arriving around 10. The village was quiet, the air thick with the threat of rain. I asked around, trying to find Tomas, but most folks just stared, curious about the gringo poking around. A few tried to steer me toward their daughters, thinking I was looking for a wife. Finally, I found Elena at the market, buying beans. She recognized me and asked why I was there. I lied, said it was routine to check on patients, that I needed to see her father. She bought it and told me Tomas was up at his shack, guarding his crops as the rainy season started. He'd gone up a few days ago and wouldn't come down until harvest. I thanked her and started the hike, following the path she described. I must have taken a wrong turn, because it took nearly 3 hours to reach the shack, the sky darkening as thunder rumbled in the distance. The first drops fell as I approached, heavy and warm, splattering the dirt. The shack was small, just wood and tin, with a sagging roof and an open door. That didn't worry me. Folks in the countryside often left their doors open, welcoming neighbors or passers-by. I called out for Tomas, but there was no answer. I called again, louder, stepping closer. Something felt off, a prickling at the back of my neck, like the air was too still. I told myself he was probably out in the fields, cutting wood or checking his crops. But when I reached the doorway, my voice died in my throat. The shack was a wreck. The table was overturned, its legs splintered. A plastic chair lay shattered in a corner. A hammock, torn from its hooks, was crumpled on the dirt floor. The support beam above it was cracked, sagging dangerously. A machete was buried deep in the wall. Its blade sunk into the wood like it had been swung with desperate force. I gripped the handle and yanked, needing 3 hard pulls to free it. The room was sparse, but nothing was untouched, everything scattered, broken, like a storm had torn through. I stepped back, the machete heavy in my hand. The rain was coming down harder, pounding the tin roof, drowning out the world. I scanned the floor, noticing claw marks in the dirt, deep and uneven, leading from the center of the room to the door. In the doorway, embedded in the wood, were 3 human fingernails, broken and bloody. My stomach lurched. Tomas had been here, fighting something. He'd been dragged out, clawing at the doorframe, his nails snapping off in a futile attempt to hold on. Whatever took him was strong, too strong. I muttered a curse and stepped outside, the rain soaking my clothes. There was no way I was staying in that shack. The downpour was heavy, turning the path to mud, but I could see maybe 100 feet ahead. Rivers of water poured down the slope, making the descent treacherous. I'd have to wait it out, but the thought of staying near that shack, with its broken nails and claw marks, made my skin crawl. I sat in the hammock, clutching the machete, its blade chipped and bent from whatever struggle had happened here. The rain roared, a relentless wall of sound, and I tried to focus on it, to block out the image of those fingernails. Hours passed, the sky growing darker as night fell. I got up every few minutes to check the rain, hoping it would ease enough for me to make it down the mountain. That's when I saw it, or thought I did. A shape in the woods, just beyond the clearing, standing among the trees. It didn't move, didn't blend with the forest's uniformity. My breath caught, my heart pounding as I stared, afraid to blink. It looked like a man, tall and still, but I couldn't tell if it was facing me or away. Lightning flashed, and I screamed. It was no man. It stood at least 8 feet tall, its arms long and dangling, covered in matted, dripping hair. Its face was a nightmare, teeth bared in a twisted grin, eyes glinting like wet stones. The light faded, but the image was seared into my mind. I stood frozen in the doorway, the machete trembling in my hand. If I moved, it would come for me. I was sure of it. Seconds stretched into minutes, my muscles aching from standing still, but I didn't dare shift. The machete was inches from my grip, but reaching for it felt like a risk. Another flash of lightning, and it was gone. The absence was worse. My imagination conjured it behind me, its breath hot on my neck. I scanned the trees, the rain blurring my vision, but saw nothing. A twig snapped behind the shack, sharp and deliberate. It was moving, circling. My heart thundered, my mind racing. How had it moved so fast? It had been still, a statue in the rain, and now it was behind the shack, its presence heavy, oppressive. I whispered a prayer, something I hadn't done since I was a kid, begging to get out of this alive. The shack had one door, no windows, no other way in. It was searching, probing. Another snap, closer now, to the left. It was coming around to the front. I lunged for the door, slamming it shut and sliding the bolt across. The wood was rotting, the nails loose, the bolt flimsy. It wouldn't hold long. I heard it breathing, just outside, a low, guttural sound that wasn't human. The rain was easing, now just a steady patter, and I realized something. Tomas's dreams, his story about the creature, it was tied to the rain. He'd only seen it when it rained, only dreamt of it during storms. Was that its pattern? Did it only hunt in the wet? The thought gave me a sliver of hope. If I could wait out the rain, maybe it would leave. Then it struck the door, a heavy, bone-rattling blow that sent pain shooting through my shoulder as I braced against it. The bolt bent, one hinge tore free, but the door held. It groaned, a sound like a beast in pain, and I heard its footsteps retreating, heavy and slow, fading into the night. I waited, listening to the drip of water from the roof, my heart still racing. The rain was nearly gone, just a faint drizzle now. I couldn't stay. If it came back, if the rain started again, I'd be trapped. I grabbed the machete, flung open the door, and ran into the dark, slipping and stumbling down the muddy path. I didn't stop until I reached El Sendero, collapsing at the edge of the village. A farmer took me in, his face creased with concern, but I couldn't talk, couldn't explain. He asked about Tomas, but I shook my head, the words caught in my throat. If I spoke, it would all come pouring out, and I wasn't ready to face that. I stayed awake all night, watching the sky, and caught the first bus back to Puerto Viejo at dawn. You're probably wondering why I'm so scared, why I flinch at the sight of clouds. I escaped, didn't I? I should be safe, just stay out of the mountains, right? But you don't understand. That night, as I sat in the farmer's house, listening to the fading rain, I drifted off, despite myself. The sound of water on a tin roof has always been soothing, lulling me to sleep. That's when I dreamt. I was in the woods, moving through the trees, rain dripping from the leaves. I grabbed a trunk, my fingers, huge, hairy, wrong, wrapping around it, the wood creaking under my weight. I climbed, fast and sure, cresting the tree to look out over the forest. In the distance, I saw Puerto Viejo's lights, faint through the haze. I dropped to the ground, moving north toward the city toward me. Tomas was right. It had hunted him through his dreams, and now it was hunting me. It's out there, waiting for the rain, moving closer with every storm. I can run, hide, leave the country, but it'll find me. It only moves in the rain, and the rain always comes. Today, the sky is heavy, the clouds black and swollen. It's coming, and this time, it'll be closer than ever.